meeting of the village board. We'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll.
Trustee Gray. Yes. Trustee Solichak.
Here.
Trustee Taglia.
Here.
Trustee Rizzo.
Here.
Mayor Gifford.
Here. Okay, we don't have privilege of the floor. Anybody wish to be heard at privilege of the floor? Seeing none, we'll close that. Review of financial statements. Steve?
Okay. I believe everybody has a copy, and I believe, Maria, you sent them out a PDF. Did they get a PDF ahead of time?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'll try and do is just highlight a couple things. If you have questions, feel free to just hit me up with the notes. But the first page is the independent audit. Okay, it's the thicker of the two packages. Okay. The financial statements and the notes themselves belong to the village. All right. So those are prepared in theory by the village. The independent auditor's report is basically what the auditor does. And what you're looking for is to have the financial statements or the audit report say that the financial statements fairly present the operations of the village. And that's pretty much what this opinion says. All right? There's some supplemental information for the federal funds. Okay? One thing I do try and point out to my governing boards is two things you want to look at as part of the audit. All right? Are the numbers actually on the financial statements? Do they fairly present the operations of the village or the municipality or the entity? And the second, which these do, and there's nothing really in these numbers that's alarming. Okay, so your fund balances are positive. You're not running negative fund balances. You're not running deficits. The other thing you want to look at is, and this is something I can tell the boards, the numbers that you're seeing throughout the year, all right, that Marie prepares monthly, that you're looking at. You want to see that those numbers don't change significantly based on the audit. For example, your general fund, unaudited numbers may be showing 100,000. The auditor comes in and showing $100,000 loss. Obviously, that's a concern to the board. That's not what happens here. When I come in to come up with any adjustments, they're minuscule, okay, and some of them wouldn't pass on. So really, what I'm trying to let the board know is the numbers that you're seeing throughout the year are representative of what's going on. It's not like your audit's going to come in and show something. Or hasn't come in and shown anything significantly different. All right. Just try and hit a couple of things on the your statement, your balance sheets. All right. If you look at the that's the first page of the numbers. If you look towards the bottom, your fund balances. All right. It's the second line from the bottom, the general fund, 1.3 million. All right. Obviously, the numbers that you're looking across at, 1.3 in the water fund, 485, sewer fund, 1.1 million. Those are strong numbers, all right? That's kind of where you want to be. You're running positive fund balances. The notes, anybody have any questions on the notes? It's pretty much boilerplate. It deals with the pension, your accounting policies, your debt, your fixed assets, things of that nature. Those are required disclosures. Pretty much every municipality wants similar disclosures. One of the things that we also do is, since the village receives more than $750,000 of federal funds, we have to have what's called, the village has to have what's called a single audit, which is an expanded audit where we do more testing of your controls, more testing of compliance with the programs and things of that nature. Your largest source of federal funds is your Section 8 program. All right. So that's where, and that's administered by Joe Mastriani's office. So that's one thing that we do, and then there's a couple of reports in the back where we actually report on the compliance with your federal programs, the laws and regulations for your federal programs, and we also evaluate the controls over your federal programs. That's one of the things that this expanded audit requires. The last page of the audit report is the auditor's findings, all right? If you look, we had an unmodified opinion. Well, it should be the last page. And everything is checked no, meaning we had no findings, no significant deficiencies, no material weaknesses. kind of what the village is looking for, an uneventful audit. I'm sorry, it's not the last page, it's the one before the budget and actual. And the last 3 pages are your budget and actual between your general fund, your water fund, and your sewer fund. And all that does is compare your actual numbers for the fiscal year to the original budget and then the modified budget. I know I went over that kind of quick. There's a couple other items I just want to go over. There's another letter, and it's not in part of this report, but it might have been part of the PDF. One of the things that at the conclusion of the audit, the auditor is required to communicate with the governing board, in this case the village board. Did we have any problems during, completing the audit? Did we have any disagreements with management? Were there any adjustments that the auditors came up with that weren't booked, all right? This is just a separate communication to the governing board. Before, what we used to be able to do is just drop off the audit report. We didn't have to issue communications. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the board wants to know that there were no problems when we were doing the audit. All right, it went pretty smooth.
Steve, for those of us who are new,
Yep.
can you teach us what a litmus test is for what we should, what you consider good for a fund balance, high and low? I mean, where we should be? You said it's good where we are, but what's,
Yeah,
should we try to be higher? Should we try to be, who complains?
they complain, the state will complain if you're too high. Okay?
What's too high?
Oh, I'm gonna butt in just
Yeah.
because the state has a little more of a opinion.
Yes.
State comptrollers
Yep.
than,
Yeah, they have some guidelines out there, and I don't have those right in front of me, and it varies by fund.
Okay, all
But,
right, we'll get it from Maria
Yeah.
later, thanks.
well, and I know that what was happening years back is the municipalities were building up their fund balances too high. And then when the state came in, they'd get a comment that their budgeting was unrealistic, all right? And they were building the fund balance up too high, all right? But there are guidelines, and they're different for school districts, different for municipalities.
and we just had the audit in May, and from the Office of the State Comptroller, and he reviewed our fund balances and was very comfortable with where they were, because we have we discussed the fact that we have a building we have a plan.
Okay,
And then the water and sewer, I don't think can ever be too high
No.
because infrastructure is great and we're, so,
Yeah, and if they criticize you for being,
yeah.
if they criticize you for being too high, like you point out, as long as you have a plan of why you're building that fund balance up.
Yes.
yeah,
They just don't want to see you, raising taxes or just understating your revenues to raise taxes to build up a fund balance. The other small thin report there, the letter to management, that's just part of the court audit that we do. And the only 2 things that we've consistently found is the bank reconciliations. There's not a lot of activity that runs through the banks for the justices' accounts, but there probably should be a formal bank reconciliation done for each of the accounts. And one of the justices should sign off on that bank reconciliation, stating that they review it. The other thing was, and I believe when the state auditor was in, he actually went back and looked at some of these old bail accounts and worked with Kristen to try and close out some of these, all right? So what we want to do is just make sure that the amount that we have in the actual bail account for the village ties out or reconciles relatively close to the bail that we're supposed to be holding for individuals.
so we're getting closer to having that?
Yes. Because I think what he did is he actually went back to,
Long time.
yeah, went back and looked at all that stuff. And I think he gave her a list of some of the ones that he had determined were closed. And I believe she was going to try and reconcile that or remove those from the list.
Thank you very much.
Questions? I know I went over it quickly. And obviously, anytime during the year, if any of you have questions, feel free to give me a call. That's it?
Thank you.
All right.
Great, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, so, court clerk. Got a Mario Ferrandi, does anybody want to move that?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Call the roll on that?
Trustee Gray? Yes. Trustee Zolchak?
Yes.
Trustee Tiberio?
Yes.
Trustee Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Resolution to appoint, going backwards here, okay. Kristen Bode as the part-time clerk.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. Call the roll.
Trustee Gray? Yes. Trustee Zolchak?
Yes.
Trustee Tiberio?
Yes.
Trustee Rizzo?
Yes.
Mayor Gifford?
Yeah. Okay, number 6, and, the resolution to, the mayor sign an agreement with Prime Engineering for the lake study.
Also motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye. We gotta do a roll on it? No, none of that.
Yeah, what,
Yeah,
what's the
fine.
litmus test for that? The money?
Lydia's better to,
Huh?
I think
Lydia's better to.
Yeah.
it's not required. I think anything where maybe not everyone's voting unanimously, or you want to make sure you're getting an
Okay.
accurate roll.
Number 7's a resolution to authorize the mayor to sign a contract with Chubb Accident and Health for volunteer firefighters against cancer insurance.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
I just have a question. Is this
Yeah.
new or is this something that we do every year?
This is
No, this
new.
is new, it's a new requirement, and it's state requirement, right? That they're, that we provide this, I mean, it says it's enhanced insurance, but it's a very small amount. It's only for a very certain, you have to have 5 years as an interior firefighter, and that's not a very large group for us,
Okay.
not a big amount of money.
I was just curious, I didn't see it in.
I qualify for it, so I'm going to vote for it, but, you know, so.
We have to show the state that we have coverage effective January 1st, but it is a mandated
Okay,
state.
thank you.
So did we get it?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 8 is to authorize the mayor to sign a settlement agreement with National Grid for the streetlight audit. Is this just streetlights, or was it other things too?
They did everything. We
Yeah.
had a few months back received a check from
So-
Verizon. Oh, this one was just the street light.
Okay,
Yeah,
so they're talking about giving us $10,000 back or so.
yeah, and in the future, we should see an increase in that we receive because they have found the discrepancy in the way that it was being calculated. So not only will we see this one-time check, but we should see our future utility tax increase.
Oh, wait, okay.
I'll make a motion for that.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 9 is the Scotia Department Heads Association Collective Bargaining Agreement. Can I have a motion to accept that?
I will, make the motion.
I'll second that motion.
Call the roll on that one.
Trustee Gray? Yes. Trustee Solichak?
Yes.
Trustee Tiberio?
Yes.
Trustee Rizzo?
Yes.
Mayor Gifford?
Yes. Okay. Mayor's comments to the board. I just wanted to report back to you on the 125 Sanders Street that had the hoarder house. It's been cleaned up an amazing amount. It's not done yet, but Louis gave them another week to work on it because she's doing such a good job, or the company's doing such a good job. They took at least one dumpster load out. Maria's got pictures if you want to see. It's just this floor in the place. It's really cool. Yeah, I don't we talked about the other one, so. Correspondence, liaison, and special committee reports. Tom?
Well, my one committee ended, and we didn't have a bid meeting or a zoning board meeting, so with that, I have nothing to report.
There was a bid meeting, I went to that. I don't think I had anything to.
Well, not for,
anything.
not for December, it happened.
Was it?
They
Okay.
canceled Tuesday's meeting.
All right. Joe?
Everybody knows we had a holiday on the avenue, it was well attended this year. Was it DeMarco's won the.
Yeah, I don't know why, but yes, they did.
We had a lot of votes from all of them, so it was really well attended, so, and, we did have a little rain, but that didn't discourage everybody from coming out.
It was lousy weather, but I was really impressed, they got people out,
Yeah,
that's good. And they had a good time,
That's all I got to report.
okay? You guys don't have anything, right?
No, yeah.
Okay. We did have an uneventful fire department meeting. Oh, George, yeah, you do. You went to the planning board meeting.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, we talked about, still learning the format. We talked about a little bit about the Cumberland Farms, how that's progressing rather swiftly. There's a little bit of a deviation in grade that Lewis was addressing. And then the other popular topic was the lighting in the back of the CVS that is hopefully going to be functioning at some point in the near future. Another concern that was raised too was the stormwater drainage out the back of the CVS parking lot. Those are all things that Lewis is working with some engineering firms to kind of gauge that, right?
Yeah.
And see how we can go about fixing that a little bit, so, in the long run,
Okay.
if need be.
Can you talk to me after about Cumberland Farms? I've got a question for you. Audit of claims, this is where you guys say, I move we pay our bills.
I move we pay our bills,
And you
I
second?
second that.
Okay, good.
and we both learned our initials really well yesterday.
Yeah. Call the roll?
Trustee Graham? Yes. Trustee Solichak?
Yes.
Trustee Tiberius?
Yes.
Trustee Rizzo?
Yes.
Mayor Gifford?
Yeah. Minutes for December 3rd meeting.
Make a motion to accept them?
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Skip the department.
Huh?
You skipped the department report.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. So, anybody have any questions on the departmental reports? If you have something you want to ask the guys, you could do it now or comment on what a nice job they did, that sort of thing, so, thank you.
Move to accept them?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the minutes of the December 3rd meeting,
We did that.
we did that, okay. Does anybody have any new business for the board?
I do.
Okay.
Well, a big point that was brought up during the election was codes and zoning. So I'd like to try to go towards a solution as far as code enforcement and oversight on zoning. So an idea we had brainstorming was to form maybe a small committee of myself, Tom, and Andrew, and possibly come up with a solution to present to the board if anybody's okay with that, or if anybody else wants to help out. But I think it's a good way to work towards a
Yeah.
solution to strengthen our
Yeah.
zoning and building department.
Does that include rental properties still on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly the oversight. I mean, we have codes, we have zoning, we have code enforcement, we have someone that's going out and doing property enforcement. It's just not all working together, and we need to find a way to make it all work together and be efficient.
Yeah.
And I think we are on our way towards a solution for it. I
I
think
can
we
sit
should.
down with you when you
Great.
get going. The citizen.
And,
Okay.
yesterday we talked about like consolidation of communication services, looking at options for that as well. I was going through the bills for the first time, I was noticing there was a lot of different kinds of communication companies, Verizon, First Light, Spectrum, all providing internet and or voice services at different buildings. Kind of just going to take it upon myself to look at all of those and see if there's a bigger picture plan that would be like a cost savings for the big picture service to the village, and possibly have, you know, options for expanding that in the future. So that's something that I was just going to look at.
So, can you get him copies of last year's, or totals of last year's bills?
Yeah, they each provide something different to the village though, so we can go over that as
Yep.
well.
Okay.
Yeah, just the total spend on the big picture connectivity. There's options a way to connect it all together and kind of streamline it and make it more efficient and expandable, rather than being, I need to order another service from another company too, so.
We were talking about having a meeting next week, Monday at 5.
It's not so much taking
Uh,
more, kind of reducing the amount.
Work session, but that's what we can talk
Play
about
it
that.
along to the
Yeah, I think we just
consolidation
need to
and
have
managing
a better
it yourself
understanding
pretty
of what
easy.
each one provides.
Right.
Before you can
Of
say
course.
that.
But that's George's specialty, so we might as well use it. Okay, anybody else? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.